Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. For the past 20 years, I've studied football as a player, coach, and analyst. So I want to kick this channel off with a bang by sharing the top 100 players who impressed me the most since I started watching the game. This isn't about who's the best, but my personal take on the players who stood out the most to me. And not gonna lie, it was really tough to narrow it down these past couple days. Also, since I only started really watching in 2006, my list focuses on the players that I watched week in and week out, so no old school legends here. And it's not just about stats or trophies, I built it around style, their best moments, and impact on their teams. And yes, many defenders and goalkeepers are missing from the list, but don't worry, I'll be doing a separate video just for them soon. So let me know what you think by dropping a comment with your thoughts. Let me know if your favorite player made the list or if I missed out on anyone you think deserves a spot. And if you enjoy the content, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. Now let's dive right into it. Okay, starting off our list, Adriano was tipped to be the next big thing for Brazil. Playing as a striker, he combined flair, strength, and legendary shot power. His shot was so strong that in the old Pro Evolution games, it was practically a cheat code. But seriously, he was feared by the best defenders in Europe. However, when he received word that his father passed away, he fell into a deep depression and was never able to get back to his best. Next up is Adel Taarabt, a player that the streets will never forget. Starring at Tottenham, Taarabt only showed his true ability with Queen's Park Rangers, where he starred as a street footballer that carried them to promotion. However, despite his talents, the Moroccan couldn't quite adapt to the Premier League, and that decline eventually landed him in Benfica's reserves. Despite those setbacks, in his prime, Taarabt was a pure street baller. Coming in at 98 is a player I have a real soft spot for, so he had to be on the list, Tomasz Rosicky. And he was a major reason why I started supporting the Gunners in the first place. Despite his slight build, Rosicky played for Arsenal, entertaining us with the Travellas and no-look passes. Unfortunately, though, injuries did steal the majority of his career, but he still managed some great moments like that chip against Sunderland. You're probably seeing a trend here, as I have players starting off the list who burned bright, but not for long, which takes us to another maverick in Hatem Ben Arfa. I can genuinely say that there were moments where the Frenchman dribbled like Lionel Messi. With a deft left foot, Ben Arfa could take on a whole team and still score. Had he been more professional, his talents could have made him a generational name. Next is the underrated Edin Dzeko. Dzeko was not known for his pace or his tricks. Instead, at 6'4", he was a reliable finisher that was great in link-up play. Making his name at Wolfsburg, he was a consistent scorer for the likes of Man City, Roma, and Inter, where it seemed like every time he touched the ball, good things happened. In at 95, Dimitri Payet peaked in the 2016 season. With Rabonna's and physics-defying free kicks, he was a hero for West Ham and even helped France to a European final. However, despite moments of brilliance, the rest of his career has been forgettable. But if you find his highlights on YouTube, you will see he was an unreal talent. Right after, we have another favorite player of mine, Aaron Ramsey. With the slow start at Arsenal, Ramsey's breakthrough year was in 2013, teaming up with Ozil in some masterful performances. Not only was he great for Arsenal, but he was heroic for Wales, captaining them to a historic run at the Euros. Not only did he score clutch goals in the FA Cup, but he had a habit of scoring absolute wonder goals. The next spot on our list belongs to Jude Bellingham. When Birmingham City retired Bellingham's jersey at the age of 17, the world laughed. But fast forward to 2024, and we can now see why they did so. Bellingham is athletic, mature, and has the clutch gene. Although he was very good at Dortmund, he's been exceptional at Real, winning trophies and awards in his first season. Going forward, the 21-year-old will likely be a leader for England and perhaps another Madrid dynasty. Bringing us to Gonzalo Higuain. Often playing second fiddle to Ronaldo, Higuain was one of the best strikers in the world during his time in Serie A. And despite missing some big chances for Argentina, make no mistake, he was a complete forward. Higuain could score every type of goal as a number 9. He became a talisman to Napoli until Juventus stole the marksman to guarantee them more Serie A titles. In at 91, Sadio Mane raised a lot of eyebrows when he moved to Liverpool from Southampton. He had tremendous pace and was a streaky scorer, but he lacked consistency. However, at Liverpool, he became a part of Klopp's dynamic front three, destroying defenses on the counter. Despite being overshadowed by Salah, he helped resurge Liverpool to the EPL and Champions League successes. Just edging this spot, we have Raheem Sterling. Comically playing for almost every big club in England, his speed and quickness made him a problem for any defender. He starred in Liverpool's 3 S's until City lured him to the Etihad. There, he would go on to become one of the best players in the league under Pep. Even though his career stagnated at Chelsea, he's hoping to return to form with Arsenal. Next up, we have Paul Pogba. Despite his recent doping ban, Pogba is more known for his talents than his actual performances. As a top Manchester United academy player, Pogba moved to Juventus as a teenager to get more playing time. There, he went on to become one of the most electric midfielders in Europe until he returned to Old Trafford. Combining a long, powerful physique with creativity, Pogba has always been a unique talent. And while he did have success with France, he has never been able to replicate that consistency at the club level. At number 88, we have one of my heroes in Jamie Vardy. Vardy's professional career started at 26, where he moved up the ladder in English football. Despite setbacks, he epitomized the Leicester City's underdog story and led them to the fairy tale EPL title, breaking records in the process. Blessed with a great energy and pace, what impressed me the most about him was his fearlessness on the pitch. Coming in at 87, El Tigre was one of the best players in the world at Atleti, Monaco, and Porto. He possessed the ability to destroy teams on his day with clever finishing, great movement, and a killer instinct. Even at the height of the Ronaldo-Messi era, he was still able to compete for goal-scoring titles as Atletico's main man. And if it were not for his miserable spells at Chelsea and United, I would have put him much higher on this list. Although his fame often overshadows his ability, David Beckham's iconic bend and accuracy offered a unique playing style to watch. A member of United's class of '92, he rarely would beat a defender, but he played more as a quarterback, picking the ball up on the right and playing pinpoint passes. He also went on to become a Real Madrid Galactico and had that iconic free kick against Greece to bring England to the World Cup. While Forlan was brilliant at Atletico Madrid, his defining moments came at the 2010 World Cup, mastering the notoriously unpredictable Jabulani ball. He scored 5 goals and won the tournament's golden ball, leading Uruguay to a surprising third-place finish. Forlan's performances were inspirational, cementing his legacy as a big-game player. We have Marcelo. Playing at left back, Marcelo was known for his ability to go forward. With great technique and forward runs, him and Cristiano were a force down Real Madrid's left flank. And it seemed like every Marcelo cross landed on the Portuguese's head. Known for his professionalism and big personality, Marcelo became one of Real Madrid's greatest servants during his 15 years with the club. A mentor to Marcelo, next is one of the game's most iconic players, Roberto Carlos. Despite being just 5'6", he was extremely explosive, giving him unreal sprint speed and laughable shot power. Similar to Marcelo, he often started the attack from left back. But despite winning everything with Real Madrid and Brazil, he's best known for his iconic free kick against France, a must-watch for football fans. Putting the left backs together, Ashley Cole takes the next spot. Starting off as a striker, Cole is known as the most complete left back in EPL history. Extremely quick and reliable on both sides of the ball, he could stop any winger on his day, bomb forward, and play great balls into the box. He ended his career as a chronic winner with Chelsea and an invincible with Arsenal. At 81, we have Juan Mata. Competing with David Silva, Mata was one of the top creators in the Premier League, teaming up with Oscar and Hazard. Small in stature, he was able to unlock defenses with his dribbling, passing, and intelligence. He went on to win the Chelsea Player of the Year award twice and helped them win their first ever Champions League. And despite having a quiet end to his career, he's still considered a top player from Chelsea and Spanish supporters alike. When your name defines a position, that means you were one of the best to ever do it. In at 80, I selected Claude Makelele. Makelele embraced being defensive-minded 6, where he happily shielded his back 4 from oncoming attacks. With great tackling, movement, and positioning, he was quietly an integral player at Real Madrid. So much so that Zidane was allegedly shocked when he was sold to Chelsea. Moving on to the Stockport Iniesta. Still just 24, Phil Foden can become one of the most decorated players in the Premier League era. With 6 EPL titles, he adds versatility and invention to the Man City machine. Having a breakout 2024, if he can replicate that with England, he could go on to be one of England's greatest ever players. The next place on this list is reserved for Arturo Vidal. Vidal won titles playing for Juventus, Bayern, and Barcelona. One of the most well-rounded midfielders, Vidal was an ideal 8 that played with aggression, but could also score goals from midfield. However, his greatest feats are helping Chelsea win 2 Copa Americas against Chelsea's Argentina. A symbol of football loyalty, Marco Reus's career was plagued by injury. Playing as a 10 or on the wing, he was the key to so many counterattacks. Had it not been for injuries and Bayern dominance, Reus could have had an even greater career. Taking the next position is Felipe Coutinho. Had he stayed at Liverpool, he would have been a club legend. With a powerful shot and sharp dribbling, Coutinho was a proper 10. However, he never made the desired impact at Barca, where Messi occupied similar spaces. However, he did win the Champions League with Bayern, where he ironically scored in the A2 defeat of Barcelona. Let's dive into number 75, James Rodriguez. A breakout star at the 2014 World Cup, James played like an old-school number 10, using his brains and skill to set up his teammates. With an amazing left foot and volleys, he added extra quality to Real Madrid. However, despite the modern game shifting away from the number 10, James is a reminder of how special those type of players can be. Alexis Sanchez takes the next spot. Although he was very good at Barca, Sanchez was at his peak in Arsenal. With energy and dribbling, he became a top player in the league and added goals to his game. He was also one of the main men for Chile in their Copa America triumphs, but he never was the same after moving to Manchester United. We have Ivan Rakitic. Rakitic could play around any press and added a different dimension to Barcelona. With Modric, he also helped Croatia reach historic heights in recent World Cups. His composure in midfield was exceptional, and he scored some great goals too. Moving on to Javier Mascherano. Every team needs a player like him, a 6 that covers the pockets and has a bit of bite about him. Although his passing was very underrated, what made him even better was his ability to adapt his game and play center back when he joined Barcelona's dynasty. Xabi Alonso was a real baller. Extremely composed, Alonso had one of the best passing ranges and could even score from half field. Having success with club and country, Alonso finished his career with many trophies and now has become a legend as a coach at Bayer Leverkusen. Ballack was known for his number 13. Michael Ballack was an intimidating midfielder, but he was also technically gifted and a goal threat from either leg and in the air. Playing for Munich and Chelsea, Ballack unfortunately lost a few finals, but is still one of the most talented midfielders of his generation. Up next, Bernardo Silva makes dribbling in tight spaces look so easy on his left foot. Although he's not very big, he's always able to protect the ball and has been a clutch and reliable cog in Pep's Manchester City. Now, despite playing for a poor Manchester United, our number 68 is Bruno Fernandes. Bruno has been the chief creator at Old Trafford. Technical and accurate, Bruno wants to hurt the defense every time he gets the ball. One of the only true 10s in the modern Premier League, Bruno has been United's best player since the departure of Sir Alex. We have the only player to win the Champions League with 3 different teams. Seedorf had both the silk and the steel of a top midfielder. And although I was not able to watch him in his prime at AC Milan, his class was obvious to see. Our next player is an underrated talent. Santi Cazorla was able to play completely ambidextrous, often taking free kicks left-footed. One of Spain's forgotten midfielders, Cazorla put on a masterclass against City and scored the goal that broke Arsenal's trophy drought. Thank you again, Santi. Bringing us to Ilkay Gundogan. Gundogan is an extremely versatile midfielder, but he always seemed to produce clutch moments in the last few weeks of the season. Scoring big goals for City time after time, intelligent and effective, Gundogan makes the game look easy. Next up is a player that combined Spanish passing with Brazilian invention. Thiago played the game so smoothly. Although he was a talent at Barcelona, his prime was at Bayern. And on his day, he could run a game on his own. And his trademark technique led Bayern to a single Champions League title. We have the steadiest player I've ever seen. Philipp Lahm was the model player for any coach. Primarily playing as a right back, Lahm was also able to play in central midfield, and his consistency and reliability on both sides of the ball made him one of the greats for Germany and Bayern. The last Ballon d'Or winner before the Messi-Ronaldo era. Ricardo Kaká was electric at AC Milan, especially in the Champions League. Possessing amazing balance and creativity, he had some of the best assists I'd ever seen, like that pass to Crespo against Liverpool. Had he continued that form at Real, he'd be higher on this list. Sliding into 61, Raul Gonzalez was the only Galactico from Real's academy. Extremely clever in his movement, he could come deep but also break through the offside trap. With a great left foot and killer instinct, he led Real to success while also becoming a top scorer in the UEFA Champions League. Next up is one of the great African strikers. Samuel Eto'o is the only player in history to win back-to-back trebles, where he did so with Barcelona and then Inter. Very quick and a great finisher, Eto'o was world-class on his day and always seemed to play his best against Real Madrid. From there, we have a controversial figure. Mesut Ozil was the type of playmaker who preferred assists to goals. Very elegant, Wenger famously compared him to Zidane. With unique upper body swerves, deft touch, and a magical left foot, he was able to unlock any defense while at Real Madrid, Arsenal, and Germany. At 58, El Nino was the youngest captain in Atletico's history. And during his peak at Liverpool, Torres was the best striker in the world. He was quick, composed, and teamed up brilliantly with Steven Gerrard. Although he had a massive drop-off after his transfer to Chelsea, he still became a world champion, won the Champions League, and scored the winning goal at the Euros. On to 57, Drogba was the complete forward. Big, strong, and amazing in the air, he was a nightmare for defenders. His feet were also world-class, scoring powerful free kicks and volleys. The ultimate big game player, he scored in almost every final. The most famous coming against Bayern, followed by the penalty to win the Champions League, Chelsea's favorite son. In the next spot, we have Erling Haaland. One-dimensional and robotic, Haaland leans into his strengths, being physical and scoring goals. Still so young, it feels like he's already conquered the Premier League and will be chasing Ronaldo's records. Moving on to another modern player on the list, Vinicius once played so badly, Benzema actually accused him of playing for the other team. But since then, he's transformed himself into a Ballon d'Or contender. His direct dribbling style is relentless, and he's an absolute handful on that left-hand side. Despite never winning a trophy, Harry Kane would have likely become the EPL's highest ever goal scorer had he stayed in the league. Not only was he Tottenham's talisman, but he guaranteed his team over 20 goals a season and had a potent connection with Heung-min Son. With world-class finishing and unselfish passing, it would be a surprise if he didn't win his first trophy with Bayern soon. Next up is a cult hero for Boca Juniors. Juan Roman Riquelme played as a classic number 10, where he always seemed a few steps ahead of the play. Although he was a great player, it is his style that captivated fans, playing with the boldness of a street footballer. Despite his lack of success in Europe, his control, vision, and free kicks made him a very special talent that is loved by all football purists. At 52 sits Pavel Nedved. The Czech midfielder won the Ballon d'Or in 2003. Known for his work rate, long shots, and ambidexterity, Nedved was an all-action midfielder. In addition to that, he was an extremely reliable presence for Juventus, staying with the team in Serie B and even taking executive roles after his retirement. For number 51, we have Thomas Muller. Breaking out during the 2010 World Cup, Thomas Muller is not very physically impressive, but has an amazing first touch and is very clever in the box. Seemingly always able to find space and time, Muller contributed to many Bayern goals as a scorer and a creator. With 500 appearances for Munich and the 2014 World Cup, he's certainly a legend of German football. At the halfway point, next up is Alessandro Del Piero, with Juventus' most goals and appearances. Del Piero is a pure example of the classic Trequartista. Possessing amazing free kicks and passes, Del Piero could do it all as a playmaker. Playing a big part in Italy's World Cup win, Del Piero is an idol in Italy. Up next is another number 10. Francesco Totti operated in the hole and possessed an unreal touch, vision, and shooting technique. As a loyal servant with Roma, he would have won more titles with Real Madrid, but decided to stay with his boyhood club, becoming the best player in their history, and played into his late 30s. Berbatov is up next. Berbatov's touch is legendary in football, and his style was so elegant that it seemed too casual at times. Highly intelligent, Berbatov would score goals but deeply enjoyed playmaking. Although he was an exceptional player at Tottenham, he won more trophies with Man United. There he won multiple Premier Leagues, scoring titles, and scored some of the greatest volleys you will ever see. At 47, we have a footballer that likes his fashion. Antoine Griezmann has some of the best link-up play I have ever seen. With great finishing and the ability to find space in the box, Griezmann has starred for Atletico and helped France win the World Cup. Despite having setbacks at Barcelona, he has evolved his game and has returned to be a force of European football. Up next, we have a forgotten legend, Bastian Schweinsteiger started off on the wing before he moved into central midfield, where he became a steady and balanced presence. Epitomizing the German style, he was disciplined in his positioning, but could also dictate games and go forward. A great all-around midfielder, he could rival anyone on this list. Next up is Mohamed Salah. The modern example of the inside forward, Salah is a master of cutting inside onto his left and finishing. Despite criticism for his overall play, Salah is known for his power and his goal-scoring records. Not only did he bring trophies back to Liverpool, but he always seemed to destroy Man United, cementing himself as a Liverpool icon. This might get me some flack, but David Villa is one of the most underrated strikers of his generation. Although Spain possessed an amazing midfield, it was often Villa that scored in the dire moments, becoming their all-time top scorer in the process. Despite some tough injuries, David Villa was also extremely impressive for Valencia and Barcelona. There he helped destroy Manchester United in what was the best club season I've ever seen. For number 43, we have Carlos Tevez. Tevez was an absolute bulldog and could elevate any team. Not only did he drag West Ham out of relegation, but he also became a part of United's famous trio. And despite some controversies, his quality and energy made him a talisman at City and Juventus. His ability to adapt and drive any team made him a top player in my eyes. One of the most likable guys in football history, Conte is like a regen of Makelele. Playing with power, bravery, and a superhuman engine, Conte happily patrolled the areas in front of the back four. Every team that had Conte felt like they always had an extra player. He went on to win the EPL with Leicester, the Champions League with a weak Chelsea side, and was a big part in France's World Cup win, a definite game changer. For our 41st spot, I picked Arsenal's former captain, Cesc Fabregas. Fabregas redefined what a central midfielder looked like in the EPL. Not particularly powerful, Fabregas uses iconic passing, control, and vision to unlock teams. He became Arsenal's talisman, followed by having success with his boyhood club, Barcelona and Chelsea. And with Spain, he famously played as a false nine where they won the Euros. Our next player is Kylian Mbappe. He's probably the fastest footballer I've ever seen and uses it to amazing effect. Playing for Monaco and PSG, he burst onto the scene as an 18-year-old and is now one of the best players of his generation. With speed, skill, and confident finishing, he already has 2 World Cup final appearances and will likely be a success with a talented Real Madrid side. Next up is Yaya Toure. Toure won the treble with Barcelona, but he hit his peak playing for Manchester City, where he started playing in a more advanced role in midfield. Long and powerful, Yaya could outmuscle opponents, but also had the intelligence of a much smaller player. A scorer of free kicks and wonder goals, he was so unstoppable in his prime. For my number 38, we have Robin van Persie. Despite obvious talent and a very powerful left foot, Van Persie's career was initially marred by injury. But when he became Arsenal's captain, he carried the team until joining rivals Manchester United. Wearing the number 20, Van Persie was seen as the player that Ferguson thought could recapture the title. That season, he took them to the next level, scoring some classic volleys on the way, such as the league clincher against Aston Villa. Next up, we have one of my favorite playmakers, Wesley Sneijder. Schneider's peak was in 2010, where some say he was robbed of the Ballon d'Or. That year, he inspired Inter to the treble and led Holland to the World Cup final. A small but powerful number 10, he had the technique to unlock any defense, but also score absolute screamers. Sitting in at 36, Angel Di Maria played for several of the biggest clubs in Europe. He had tremendous pace, invention, and relied on his left foot. Brave on the ball, Di Maria was often the difference for his team in finals, most notably for Argentina. And as you know, big game players always get a boost on my lists. Next is the Premier League's top scoring midfielder. Frank Lampard's trademark late runs into the box helped him consistently get 20 goals a season, often scoring more than most strikers. He was also a part of the physical and emotional spine of Chelsea, playing a big part in their rise to a super club. In at 34, when Virgil van Dijk went to Liverpool, it felt like they had found the missing piece. It was the first time I'd ever felt like a center back truly elevated a team. So much so that he even went 65 consecutive games without being dribbled past. Strong, quick, and can even hit free kicks, Virgil is easily one of the most talented center backs I've ever seen play. On to our next player, Sergio Ramos. Ramos was the embodiment of Real Madrid's fighting spirit. He had the talent to play center back, on the right, and even midfield at times. Not only was he an athletic, solid defender, but he could also take penalties and score clutch headers like he did against Atletico in the Champions League final. But what really sets him apart from other defenders was his tenacity, leadership, and drive to win. Sergio Aguero takes my number 32. Scoring Man City's most famous goal, Aguero will always be a fan favorite. With a low center of gravity, he was quick, technical, and had a killer instinct in the box. One of the most consistent scorers in the Premier League era, Aguero is a major reason why City have been such a force in English football. Up next, famously scoring 5 goals in 9 minutes, Robert Lewandowski is one of the top strikers of his generation. Breaking records and winning a treble with Bayern, Leva made his mark in the Bundesliga. Good in the air and having 2 great feet, every time the ball came to Leva, good things happened. And even in his mid-30s, he continues to be a top striker. For number 30, we have one of the only goalies on the list. Manuel Neuer was the first to start the trend of the sweeper keeper and was able to stop attacks on his own. He's also extremely good on the ball, which made him revolutionize the role of a goalkeeper. But more than anything, he had incredible, strong hands and great reflexes. A genuine game changer, he won 2 trebles with Bayern and the World Cup with Germany. Sitting at 29, Rodri may still be in his 20s, but he already has 4 consecutive Premier Leagues, a European Championship, and he scored the winning goal in the Champions League. Rodri always seems to make the right decision, being extremely steady in possession, defensively solid, but also has a knack of scoring big goals. Despite being surrounded with stars such as Haaland and De Bruyne, he's the glue at City, which is one of the best teams in England's history. Wayne Rooney sits at our 28th spot. When he burst onto the scene at 16, it wouldn't have surprised you that he would go on to be the top scorer for Man United and England. But Rooney didn't chase stats. Instead, he liked to drop deep and make space for the likes of Van Persie and Ronaldo. A player with raw talent and temperament, Rooney's not only one of England's greatest talents, but also one of their most iconic. Dani Alves is the most skillful wingback in the history of football, which is why he takes the 27th spot. With a huge trophy cabinet, Alves played for several top teams, but is known for his time in Barcelona. There he formed a telepathic relationship with Messi down that right-hand side. Possessing elite flair and tiki-taka, Dani Alves even made me want to be a wingback. Up next is Toni Kroos. Kroos has the joint record for the most Champions League wins, having 5 with Real Madrid and 1 with Bayern. Known for wearing the same model of Adidas boots, Kroos was a player that is timeless. He had an amazing passing technique, and it made the game look so easy with his trademark control. Nicknamed Scarface, Frank Ribéry had a breakout World Cup attracting the interest of Bayern Munich. With elite agility, dribbling, and wing play, he partnered Robben in the Robbery duo, one of the greatest wing combos in history. And although he faced a bunch of injuries, he was unplayable during his peak and almost won a Ballon d'Or. Up next is a player that is often overlooked, but for me, David Silva is one of the greatest players I've seen. Playing as an attacking midfielder, Silva operated in the pockets and was a statement signing for Man City. What impressed me the most, though, was how he always looked like he had more time and space than anyone else, even in the tightest situations. And despite not having the most enviable stats, David Silva guaranteed you a great performance and was a mainstay in that Spanish team. In at number 23, we have one cool customer. Andrea Pirlo is renowned for his steely composure and classic style of play. Playing as a regista, he was central to Milan and Juventus, influencing 2 dynasties. With amazing passing range and free kicks, Pirlo also helped Italy win a World Cup. Our top goalie on the list, Buffon embodied the class of a Catenaccio. A calming presence with great reactions, Buffon displayed consistent excellence in goal, winning the World Cup and re-establishing domestic dominance after Juventus' relegation to Serie B. Even at 40, he was still seen as a top keeper, a timeless legend. Maldini's father was an AC Milan legend, but Paolo takes the 21st spot. Seen by many as the greatest defender ever, he retired in 2009, so I unfortunately wasn't able to see him quite in his prime. But even at that age, it was still obvious that he was a different level of defender. Always in the right position and never looking rushed, Paolo played both left back and down the middle. From there, he had an aura around his defending, but could also go forward when needed. Now we're getting to the best of the best. At number 20, I put Paul Scholes. Known for his quiet nature, Scholes let his football do all the talking. A part of the class of '92, Scholes went on to play his entire career for the Red Devils. He controlled the tempo of matches with ease. If he got too tight, he could play around you, but if you stayed off him, he would kill you with the long ball. Playing until his late 30s, his 11 EPL titles are a tribute to his consistency. And if you listen to how the greats talk about him, he is one of the most gifted players from that dynasty. At 19, we have someone who was once considered a Chelsea reject. However, Kevin De Bruyne is the greatest passer in the modern era. In a team full of stars, he's been the main man for City throughout Guardiola's reign. Thinking a step ahead, he can see passes that no one else can and delivers them with perfect execution. At times, he can be misunderstood, but will probably go down as the best midfielder in the Premier League era. Bringing us to our next player, a loyal servant to Liverpool, Steven Gerrard carried the Reds during their era of decline. He was an extremely complete midfielder, athletic and technical enough to play any position on the pitch and still be the best player. Seriously, he could have been world class as a 9 or as a right back. Not only did he have a rocket of a shot, but he was also a big game player, playing a big part in that comeback in Istanbul. As the greatest player in Liverpool's history, he was able to lengthen his career by playing in deeper midfield roles and would have won the EPL were it not for that untimely slip. As it was his first number at Chelsea, it is fitting to have Eden Hazard at the number 17. Hazard is the most talented player in Chelsea's history. With his low center of gravity, he could win games on his own. He was blessed with quickness, skill, and link-up play. His creativity made him unpredictable, and he was unplayable at his peak. Despite his nightmare in Madrid, had he been more dedicated to success, his talent could have brought him to the Messi and Ronaldo levels. Up next is Neymar. Neymar played football with the cheekiness of a futsal player. With rainbows, rabonas, he was the shiftiest winger of his generation. However, after being a part of the MSN trio, he left for PSG to get out of Messi's shadow. There, he never quite reached those heights again, despite still having moments of genius. Struggling with injury and playing in the Messi-Ronaldo era, Neymar never became the best in the world, but is still seen as one of Brazil's most gifted ever players. Benzema takes our next spot. Joining Real from Lyon, Benzema was once only seen as the glue linking Bale and Cristiano together. Often sacrificing his own game for them, Benzema's game went to the next level after Ronaldo's departure. Becoming their talisman and producing big moments in the big games, propelling him to a Ballon d'Or and legendary status. Zlatan is up next with our 14th spot. A journeyman of European football, Ibra was able to dominate Italy, Spain, France, and England, playing for the biggest clubs. He felt like a guaranteed domestic title, especially in Italy. Known for his big personality and acrobatic finishing, the Lion was a game changer for all his clubs. Not only that, the Big Sweep brought his own style to football and scored some of the best goals I've ever seen, such as his bicycle kick against England. Simply the coolest personality in all of sports. There is only one Zlatan. Stepping into number 13, we have Arjen Robben. Robben was as masterful as he was predictable. Playing on the right side for Bayern and Holland, Robben used his speed to cut inside and curl a trademark finish. And even though everyone knew what he wanted to do, he was still unstoppable. At his peak, he single-handedly destroyed the Barcelona and Spain dynasties with some iconic performances. And in my opinion, he's one of the only players that reached Messi-Ronaldo levels at times. He would go on to win a treble with Bayern and almost win the World Cup against Spain. Next up is Gareth Bale. Starting off as the left back, Bale moved higher up the pitch and became one of the best wingers of his generation. With elite pace, he had a few standout seasons with Tottenham, playing as a one-man team at times, before going to Real Madrid for a record fee. There, he won multiple Champions Leagues alongside Ronaldo and also carried Wales in multiple tournaments. Despite ending his time in Real Madrid with a soured relationship, Bale was a big game player and scored some of the most iconic goals in their history, such as that goal against Barcelona where he burned Bartra, or his overhead kick against Liverpool. Luka Modric takes our next spot at number 11. Although Modric's peak started in his late 20s, his professionalism has made him better with age. Now known as one of the best midfield generals of all time, his partnership with Kroos was exceptional. Playing a big part in Real Madrid's European dominance, he also led Croatia to a World Cup final and won the Ballon d'Or in the process. One of the most intelligent players to ever play the game, you can give him the ball anywhere on his body, and he will always find a way to keep possession. A complete midfielder, he seemingly never made mistakes. Breaking into our top 10, we have Sergio Busquets. One of the most unique talents, Busquets is the greatest defensive midfielder of all time by the way he controlled games with tiki-taka and body swerves. Extremely frail for an athlete, he never had to get stronger because his brain could do all the work without it. He was so good that teams almost openly gave up on pressing him. And even on the defensive side, he read the game very well and always seemed to be in the right position. As a member of Spain and Barcelona, he was a part of the greatest midfield trio in history, not just for winning games, but also making it look easy. As a top striker of his era, it is fitting that we have Luis Suarez in the 9th spot. Luis Suarez was a monster on the field, bringing competitive edge to every match. Now, this did get Suarez into some PR nightmares, but there was never a doubt about his ability. A complete forward, Suarez had the flexibility to hurt you in so many different ways, dribbling, link up, or shooting from range. But what made him so special is that he could carry a team like Liverpool, but could also complement Messi during his time at Barcelona. On top of that, he led Atleti to a La Liga title and elevated Uruguay to challenge for trophies. Simply put, every team that Suarez played for got better. Thierry Henry sits in at our 8th position. Ice cold in front of goal, the Frenchman is the greatest player of the Premier League era. He had everything as a striker: pace, finishing, and he could also set up his teammates. Although he won the World Cup and treble with Barcelona, Henry was at his peak with Arsenal, leading them to multiple trophies, including their invincible season. In addition to that, he scored one of my favorite goals, the volley against United. Arsenal's greatest pride, King Henry. He is arguably my favorite footballer of all time. But at number 7, we have the great entertainer, Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho embodied the spirit of Jogo Bonito. With amazing commercials and that iconic smile, Ronaldinho inspired my generation with skills only he could envision, let alone execute, such as that goal against Chelsea. He was the first player that made me feel like I was watching a freestyler in a match. Although his peak was short, he won it all with Brazil and Barcelona, winning the Champions League, Ballon d'Or, and the World Cup. Had it not been for partying, he could have been the greatest player of all time. Matching his number for Barcelona, at number 6, we have the all-time great Xavi Hernandez. Xavi embodies Barcelona's possession style of play with his genius football IQ. With incredible vision, precision, and technique, he's the best example of how brains can always be brawn in football. A leader for Spain and Barcelona, he read the game like no other. It wasn't just that he won it all, but it was the way that he won matches, completely bossing possession and rendering the opposition powerless in midfield. Starting off our top 5, Iniesta's partnership with Xavi created the most dominant run in modern football. They combined seemingly telepathically, but while Xavi was more conservative in possession, Iniesta wanted to unlock defenses. Winning 3 major tournaments in a row with Spain and being the creative influence behind Barcelona's tiki-taka, he was the most efficient player I've seen in tight spaces. Winning 2 trebles, he also was a part of the 2011 Barca side that I consider to be the best club side ever, where they destroyed teams like Manchester United and Real Madrid. In addition to that, he had that clutch gene where he was able to score that goal against Chelsea and win Spain the World Cup from his volley in extra time. His impact was so powerful that he directly influenced the way modern football is played. In at number 4, we have the phenomenal Ronaldo Nazario. Ronaldo is the most complete and explosive striker of all time. A nightmare for every defender, he had unusual movements that made his dribbling style unpredictable. And with insane acceleration, he could score goals that astounded even his coaches. Ronaldo was not only a spectacle to watch, but he was also a winner for club and country. But it was for Brazil that he was at his very best. And despite the controversy of the '98 World Cup, he led Brazil to become champions in 2002. Sporting one of the most iconic haircuts of all time. Despite suffering career-ending injuries and weight issues, he was still a top player in the mid-2000s, but we will always wonder what could have been had he been able to stay completely fit. Known to the French as Zizou, we have Zidane at the 3rd spot as he is simply the maestro of football. Playing as a 10, Zidane was poetry in motion. With his iconic roulette, control, and passing, he was able to win it all with Juventus and Real Madrid. Possessing the clutch gene, he also clinched a World Cup with 2 goals in the final and scored one of the best goals ever against Leverkusen. And even though his last game ended with that infamous headbutt, who could forget his performance against Brazil, outclassing the entire team? Even after retiring from the game, he is one of the only greats that also became a top coach. The greatest mind in all of football, simply Zidane. These next 2 spots are so close that it actually hurts. But at number 2, we have CR7. Cristiano is not only the top goal scorer of all time, he's also one of the most inspirational. From his iconic stepovers at United to superhuman headers to clutch hat-tricks, Ronaldo was able to combine skill with a machine-like physique and a bulletproof mind. The embodiment of dedication, Ronaldo was reinventing football in real time. And with one of the most complete skill sets and resumes, Ronaldo not only conquered England, Spain, and Italy, but he elevated Portugal to their first win at the Euros. However, he's obviously best known for his time at Real Madrid, where he left United for a record transfer fee and ignited the era of peak football. Transforming his game from a winger to a goal-scoring machine, he is on his way to scoring 1,000 goals, which is crazy. And on top of that, he already has 5 Ballon d'Ors, a laughable number of records, won 5 Champions Leagues, and has become his own global brand. There is no doubt that Cristiano is arguably one of the greatest of all time, if not the best. And despite his haters, he has written himself into the history books in the greatest rivalry of all time. And without a surprise, at number 1, we have the legend that is Lionel Messi. Even at the tender age of 16, Messi was already considered to be the next Maradona, a title that I thought would never be matched. But Messi's magic at Barcelona and recent successes with Argentina have made him the best player of his generation. Despite having impossibly good stats and consistency, he's also one of the greatest dribblers, finishers, and passers of all time, with the ability to unlock a defense like no player in history. The complete attacker, Messi terrified defenders with his ability to take on 3 or 4 at a time, with his close control, insane acceleration, and iconic left foot. Not only can he play tiki-taka and set up his teammates, but he also has scored some of the greatest goals ever, such as his goals against Getafe and Bilbao. And let's not forget that he did score over 90 goals in one club season, where he was the main man in the most dominant club side ever. But despite being loved in Barcelona, his biggest criticism was his inability to win a final with Argentina, like Maradona did in '86. However, after many failures, it wasn't until his 30s did his fortunes change. Messi went on to captain Argentina to an elite run of trophies, winning 2 Copa Americas and starring in the 2022 World Cup, which elevated him as the greatest to ever do it. In addition to that, he has a record of 8 Ballon d'Ors, the most team trophies ever won by a player, and considered to be the GOAT of football.